The movie kicks off with Robert Oppenheimer's vision of an atomic explosion. As the vision ends, he finds himself at a security hearing in 1954. The committee is tasked with determining if he's guilty of divulging classified information. During this conversation, Robert asserts that to reach a decision, his entire life should be considered in this case. The scene shifts and we are taken back in time to the year 1924, where we see young Robert as he embarks on his physics studies at Cambridge. During a lab session, he accidentally spills reagents. His teacher gets mad and instructs him to start over. Robert tells him that he has to attend Niels Bohr's lecture, but his teacher does not allow him to leave. Despite wanting to attend Niels' lecture, he obeys the teacher and completes his task. However, after everyone leaves, he uses potassium cyanide to poison an apple on the table, intending to sneak away to Bohr's lecture. The following day, realizing his mistake, he rushes to the classroom to replace the apple. There he meets Bohr and prevents him from consuming the poisoned apple. Both of them engage in a conversation, and impressed by Robert's knowledge, Bohr advises him to switch universities for better opportunities. Finding his advice useful, Robert enrolls at the University of Göttingen, delving into quantum physics. The scene then shifts to the year 1959, where a Senate meeting discusses Louis Strauss's nomination for Secretary of Commerce. During this, Strauss faces questioning about Robert, and surprisingly, he expresses his negative views, explaining his connections to communist circles. It is revealed that Robert has a personal grudge against Strauss dating back to 1947, when he first encountered Strauss. As head of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission, Strauss offered him a position at Princeton University, but Robert declined his offer. After this, spotting Albert Einstein near the lake, Robert approaches him and displays patronizing behavior towards Strauss. Robert and Einstein engage in a brief conversation before Einstein departs, and as soon as Strauss comes there, Einstein does not pay any attention to Strauss. This clearly shows that it has something to do with Robert, and he must have said something upsetting about Strauss to Einstein. After completing his studies in Göttingen, Robert attends a lecture by Heisenberg. Heisenberg praises Robert's scientific work and proposes research collaboration, but Robert declines, stating his intention to return to the United States. After this, Robert began teaching at Berkeley, initially with only one student in attendance. However, soon the number of students rapidly grows. Back at the hearing, Strauss reveals that the FBI initiated an investigation on Robert upon his return to the U.S. due to his left-wing political leanings. On one occasion, Robert attends a meeting of the Communist Party USA, where he encounters Håkan Chayler and Jean Tetlock. He engages in an affair with Jean, but Robert finds it hard to keep up with her mood swings. Their relationship is further affected by developments in the scientific world, as a piece of breaking news emerges that the Germans have successfully split the uranium atom. After this discovery, scientists realize that if this achievement leads to a chain reaction of released neutrons, it could be harnessed for a bomb. Adding to this article, another follows stating Hitler's invasion of Poland, igniting World War II. During a routine Communist Party gathering, Robert crosses paths with Catherine Pun, which once again turns into a romantic entanglement. In a surprising turn of events, Catherine leaves her husband to marry Robert. However, Robert still continues his association with Jean. During his hearing, Robert admits that his trust was lost in the communists when they stayed neutral at the start of the war, even though his wife Catherine was a member of their party. It is revealed that while he was in college, Robert met General Leslie Groves, who asked him to lead the Manhattan Project, which aimed to build an atomic bomb. The scene shifts and we see Groves, who seems worried that the Nazis might make a bomb first, so he thinks the US must get ahead. Meanwhile, Robert believes the US has to act fast to beat Hitler, hoping that Hitler's hatred for Jewish scientists will slow down their progress. Robert also strongly argues that scientists who escaped from Hitler's control should help make the atomic bomb in the US. After hearing this suggestion, General Groves isn't sure at first, but Robert convinces him that having these scientists is important for winning the race to make the bomb. Now, to accommodate the project's needs, a dedicated city is under construction in Los Alamos for the scientists and their families. In the meantime, Robert and Groves embark on a nationwide journey to recruit the most brilliant minds for building the atomic bomb. However, it seems like not all scientists are comfortable with using their expertise to create weapons that have the potential for mass destruction. However, Robert emphasizes the fact that building such a weapon is better than the Nazis possessing it. Adding to this, during their initial meetings, an issue arises regarding calculations. Robert instructs the scientists to revisit their calculations while he decides to seek counsel from Einstein. Robert gets to know that there are growing concerns about the possibility of uranium's uncontrolled decay triggering. This in turn could lead to a chain reaction, ultimately leading to global catastrophe, wiping out humanity. Robert immediately requests Einstein to verify the calculations, but Einstein asserts that it's Robert's responsibility, not his. Then Einstein suggests that if the calculations prove accurate, Robert should inform the Nazis to prevent either side from triggering global destruction. Upon returning to Los Alamos, Robert receives confirmation that the calculations have been thoroughly reviewed and the likelihood of a man-made apocalypse is minimal. However, a few months later, Hochenschaller subtly suggests to Robert the idea of sharing their discoveries with the Soviet Union. Robert adamantly refuses this offer at the time, but he regrets his decision during a hearing years later. The timeline shifts back to 1959 amidst the hearings on Strauss's nomination as Secretary of Commerce. The Senate announces that they are going to hear the testimony of another scientist soon, causing anxiety for Strauss, who fears what might happen after this. It is revealed that scientists blame Strauss as head of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission for what happened to Robert in 1954. Events rewind and take us back to a meeting in Los Alamos, where scientists are discussing the devastating potential of the atomic bomb. One scientist suggests the concept of a hydrogen bomb, as it is hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb. However, they also realize that the hydrogen bomb would still rely on atomic bomb technology, so they set aside this idea for the time being. Then, a flashback to 1949 follows, where we see the Atomic Energy Commission discussing the Soviet Union's inaugural nuclear bomb tests. During this, Robert proposes to initiate negotiations with the Soviets to get rid of the nuclear weapons. However, Strauss does not agree with him and asserts developing a hydrogen bomb to gain an edge over the Soviets. Back in 1943, General Groves scolds Robert for visiting another part of the Manhattan Project with another scientist, reminding him to stick to his assigned tasks and keep everything secret. However, during the hearing, Groves stands up for Robert, saying he doesn't think Robert ever told the Soviets anything despite some slip-ups. At the same time, Robert's relationship with Jean is brought up, shown in flashbacks. He admits the affair to Catherine, who's there at the hearing. She leaves because of it. After this, Colonel Boris Posh, responsible for Manhattan Project secrecy, is called as a witness. He recounts an incident where Robert hinted at a Soviet spy network offering information through an intermediary, wanted to know who the middleman was, but Robert didn't want to get Chevalier in trouble, so he didn't say. But a few months later, around Christmas time, he finally gave a name. Back in time, Bohr arrives at Los Alamos. He was stranded due to the Nazi occupation, but he shares wise words with the scientists, warning Robert about the serious responsibility of creating a weapon that could harm humanity. Meanwhile, Robert learns about June's tragic death. Her passing, caused by an overdose and drowning, deeply affects Robert, leading to a breakdown. He retreats into the woods, overwhelmed by despair, until Catherine finds him and encourages him to pull himself together. Soon after this, tensions rise further among the scientists as it is revealed that one member is working on the hydrogen bomb project instead of their main tasks. Going back in time in 1949, the Atomic Energy Commission discusses the possibility of creating a hydrogen bomb. Robert emphasizes his belief in forming an international commission to oversee nuclear weapons, as he warns that building the hydrogen bomb could lead to the Soviets doing the same, which could make things worse. At the same meeting, Robert meets William Borden, who later sends a report to the FBI. In his report, Borden accuses Robert of intentionally slowing down the hydrogen bomb project. He backs up his claims with details from Robert's file, which was given to him by people in the military who wanted to cause trouble. Shifting back to 1945, news spreads about Hitler's downfall and Germany's surrender. After this, scientists discuss the moral dilemmas of using the atomic bomb in real combat. Some question whether it's right to use such a powerful weapon outside of a controlled setting, while Robert speaks up, arguing that using nuclear weapons against Japan is necessary to prevent even more deaths from a naval invasion. Now, preparations for the first test of the atomic bomb, called Trinity, are in full swing. The day before the test, Robert approaches the bomb, realizing the immense damage it could cause. As the test date approaches, Robert and Groves spend a restless night in the bunker, worried about the potentially catastrophic consequences of the explosion. Finally, the day for the testing arrives. Armed with sunglasses and welding glasses, the team anxiously awaits the explosion as the countdown nears its end. Suddenly, a blinding light fills the sky, turning darkness into daylight. In the aftermath, Robert ponders the profound impact of their creation, speaking the chilling words, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The successful Trinity test brings cheers from the crowd, who congratulate Robert. Soon after this, the scientists make 2 more atomic bombs, which are sent to the military. However, as they realize the destructive power of their invention, Robert struggles with moral questions about using such devastating weapons against other people. Then President Truman's speech about the nuclear bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki is broadcasted widely, and many people celebrate because it means the war is almost over. But Robert feels guilty about the lives lost because of the bombs he helped create. In a passionate speech to his team, he talks about the moral problems of using such powerful weapons and imagines how terrible it would be if they were ever used again. Despite his guilt, Robert becomes famous as a global science leader, even appearing on the cover of Time magazine. When he goes to a reception with President Truman, he's congratulated at first for his role in making the bomb. But when he admits feeling guilty about it, Truman brushes him off, giving him a handkerchief and calling him a crybaby before kicking him out of the event. Years later, during a hearing after the war, it is revealed that Robert worked hard to stop the US from making more nuclear weapons, and this ultimately became the reason for conflict with Strauss. Therefore, using his connections, Strauss tries to harm Robert's loved ones. It is also revealed that Strauss was behind leaking Robert's information to Borden and organizing a closed hearing to damage Robert's reputation. During the questioning, Robert explains that he changed his mind about making nuclear weapons when he realized the US would do anything to win. At the end of the hearing, the commission admits that Robert was loyal to the US, but takes away his security clearance and political power. The scene shifts to 1959, where we see David Hill, a former technician, speaking out against Strauss on behalf of most scientists. He criticizes Strauss for what he did to Robert, showing that the effects of Strauss's actions are still felt years later. The scientist's testimony proves that Strauss's actions weren't about keeping the country safe, but were driven by personal grudges against Robert. This includes an incident where Robert criticized Strauss's ideas during a hearing, saying they were as useful as a sandwich. Also, Strauss's refusal to support certain people for important positions, like young Senator John F. Kennedy, shows he let personal feelings affect his decisions. The timeline goes back to 1947, to a significant talk with Einstein by the lake. It is revealed that Einstein said that any praise Robert gets won't really be for him, but for others' benefit. Before leaving, Robert reminds Einstein about the time they talked about the possibility of destroying the world with a chain reaction. This is where the movie ends.